So architects are usually aiming for, like, if they can get a really good commission for them would be, let's say the house that they're going to design is going to end up costing in the construction phase $1 million. If they can get a contract for $100,000, that's a good fee. And that's typically the business model that people are operating on. But that's not like, to contrast that, general contractors in Colorado where we operate, what they're charging owners typically is 20 to 25% of the total construction, projected total construction cost. So this is where the American disconnect anyway, or like the complaint comes from for the architects. I don't blame them. I'm with them. I'm like, yeah, look, the builder's making more money than you. Look at that. And they couldn't build it without your drawings. I agree with you. So why aren't you building them too? Like, just take on a few of them. Take on one building project per year. That's all you need. Like, why not do it?
Everybody, Gavin Coyle, I'm the Gaffer, and I've got Lance Cayko all the way from the States to talk to us today about how architects need to change their model in terms of how they interact with the construction community on an overall basis and on a general basis. And we're going to unpack what that is. So think about white collar, blue collar, think about the client, think about where the architect sits within that whole environment of communication, and ask yourself, do architects communicate effectively with the guys on the ground? Do they not communicate at all with them and just dismiss them for the conversation with the client or with the master builder or principal contractor? Lance has a very strong views on it, and he's a great background himself. Being an architect, he's an entrepreneur. He's got his own podcast inside the firm. He's owner and co-founder of F Productions, which is an architectural firm in the States. And I'm delighted to have you in studio, Lance. Welcome to I'm the Gaffer.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Where do we start? Let's go for, how did you get into the architectural career? Where did it start for you?
You know, I'm 43, and my career in this industry started 30 years ago when I was 13. I actually wanted to be a builder first. So I grew up in a very rural part of the United States, in the middle of the country. It's from a state called North Dakota, very, very rural. And one side of the family were sugar beet farmers. The other side of the family were cattle ranchers. And on the sugar beet side of things, I tried farming with my dad for a summer, and I lasted a week. And I just hated the work. I didn't like my dad at that point in my life. And I was like, I got to do something else. And so, his best friend was a general contractor, and I'd always been fascinated and wanted to kind of follow in the footsteps of my grandfather, who was a builder. So I called his best friend up, Bruce, and I said, I just quit working with my dad. Like, I'll go pick up garbage on the job sites. I'll do whatever it takes. And he goes, oh, awesome. I need one of you. I need a good gopher. I'll pay you $7.25 an hour. I go, cool. What's a gopher? And he goes, oh, you're going to go for this, go for that. When you're done going for the things, you can get up on the roof and learn how to roof. And I was just all in. So I think I was the best gopher he ever had, because I had the job site so clean all the time that I was up on that roof, because I was bound and determined to learn how to actually do something with my hands. And about halfway through the summer, he pulls me aside and he goes, hey, he gave me my first business lesson ever. And it changed my whole life and trajectory. And he said, I'm paying you $7.25 an hour. What do you think I'm charging the owners? And I go, $7.25 an hour. And he laughed, and I was completely embarrassed. He said, no, I'm charging them 3 or 4 times, and I go, hey, that sounds immoral. And he goes, and he laughed again. And then he explained profit, overhead, risk, all of that to me, and like why that's how it works. And then it kind of just changed my perspective on that moment in that conversation. And I didn't realize at that moment either, because I hadn't read the book until only maybe about 10 years ago, right? Book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I realized after reading that book and then looking in hindsight, I had the Rich Dad, Poor Dad experience. Because Bruce, who's just the general contractor, was my rich dad. Poor Dad was the farmer. And they had vastly different mindsets around money. A lot of anxiety in the house I grew up in around money. Bruce had none. And it wasn't even that he was a person of possessions. It wasn't about him having a nice new truck or a boat or a big house. It was like, he just wasn't worried about it. Yeah, he's not rich by any means, but he had just a different relationship with money. So I finished working out for him the end of the summer, and at the end of the summer, he turned to me and he says, well, what do you want to be when you get big? And I was 13, right? So I was getting so big. And I said, "Well, I don't want to, I'm not trying to take over your company. Like that's not my. But how do I do what you do? Like, what do you? How do I become a builder like you?" And he said one of the like most emotionally mature things I think a man has ever told me. And he said, "Well, next summer you don't work for me. You go work for a different general contractor. Learn a different trade. Keep doing that until you learn all the trades that you can, and then you can become a general contractor." And I go, "Done." So I did that. It was like gospel. So I did that from like 13 to 20, went to tech school and tech school for building construction tech. Again, I wanted to be a builder first. We got to our capstone project for my second year of building construction tech. So I'd have been 20. And we started rolling out these blueprints and because we had to build a house. That was a capstone project together. And the word architect popped into my head. I just never even thought of that word until then. And this was like my was sort of an epiphany for me. It was, wow, if I suddenly like school. Like, what if I applied to the school 70 miles north and became an architect next? Then I could get the clients first because that's how you got to draw first. You got to design first before you're building it. I could flip those into building project. Like, I is a 20-year-old thought, right? And I have three boys, and none of them are having these kind of entrepreneurial thoughts. They're all around 20.
You were ahead
So I
of your
just
time.
Oh my god. Well, I just think it's like God. Like, thank you, God, for giving me that, right?
Yeah, but it sounds like you came from a place, if you don't mind me saying so, of little, that there wasn't, abundance of money or abundance of opportunities. So you were just putting it together yourself and going, oh my God.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I'm thankful for the experience, right? My mom and dad have heard me tell this story a few times as a guy who does a lot of podcasts and public speaking stuff. And they at first they were very offended. And I go, look, like it's the truth. I mean, we didn't have a lot and it's okay, guys. Like it's just what I've told them is I go, you guys just didn't finish a sentence. And what the sentence is they would always say this. They would say, having money isn't everything. And I hated that phrase because I was like, yeah, you're right, but you're also wrong. And about in the same time frame, about 10 years ago, my favorite rapper, Kanye West, he finished the phrase for me. Having money isn't everything, not having it is. And I went, man, that's exactly it. Like if you don't have it, boy, it's kind of the whole world for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like my father would say that he didn't go bankrupt. But if somebody sat him down, and I've tried to sit him down and say, well, when you've less money in your bank and you owe money and you can't repay those particular commitments and you can't really live from week to week, that's poverty and that's bankruptcy. But they just they don't want to go there. That's just not, don't put a label on it. Maybe it's old school. I don't know whether it's like sticking your head in the sand and just sort of not addressing the fact that, look, it failed. You failed. It's not a big deal. Like, everybody fails. No drama. Just get on with it, But yeah, I can kind of see the same sort of scenario with yourself was with myself, was like you just gotta get out and make it happen. Like it's
Yeah.
college is not on the books. You gotta make your own college and find a way to go to college.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
resonate that with
100% right. And so I applied to the school 70 miles north of the tech school, got into architecture school, and just actually really fell in love and became like an academic scholar. All of a sudden, it was like, I think it was because I got to choose what I wanted to do for the first time in my life, coming from a very small town. And I just really fell in love with the whole thing. Graduated at the top of my class,
well done.
won the thesis
Mackenzie.
award. Yep. And then the last sort of entrepreneurial epiphany as a young guy went off in my head, and it was the word developer is thrown around a lot in the architecture world because that's who a lot of architects work for us, real estate developers. And I was, at that point I went, huh, I should become a real estate developer one day too. Because then I could get paid 3 or 4 times, right? Especially if I hold on to the property, if I'd be as an investor. So that's why I'm here today actually and that's how my trajectory started again. Didn't want to be an architect, didn't want to be a developer right away. It was builder first.
Yeah.
And now coming full circle, it's like now I'm trying to convince a bunch of these architects that listen to our show and this show and all, other places, like whenever I get a chance, like, hey, make it full circle. Like, why aren't you building some of this stuff? Why
Yeah.
aren't you actually taking back more of that master builder role?
And now you're building in places like Aspen and all these kind of premium luxury environments, and you've made it. You've done it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. We
I'm going.
started from nothing too.
I'm going to unpack one thing, well, I'm going to unpack a lot of things. If you don't mind, curveballs are going to be just coming at you. left, right, and center. But you don't normally associate entrepreneurs with architecture or architects. Talk to me about that.
I agree, you don't. Yeah, I mean, you don't even associate business with architects until maybe the last decade or so, because there's been sort of this organic, movement that's really happened in the last decade, decade and a half. A lot of it is because of the podcasting. I'm convinced, right? So some of my best podcast architecture friends are Mark LePage with the Entre Architect community, Enoch Sears with the Business of Architecture podcast, and these are folks who are architect. They're still technically architects, they're licensed and everything, but man, they really saw that the American Institute of Architects. Here's where I'll start getting in trouble. Are missing the small firm architects, small businesses like us. 1 to 12 people. We're at 10 right now. And that it's no one's advocating for building better small businesses in the architecture field. And they went, we should do it. And that's exactly what we do on our show too. So there was a long time, I think, in America where, and maybe even across the United States, over in the UK and stuff like that, with architects too, where it's like, well, this is sort of where the ivory tower comes in. It's like, if I design this really beautiful building, why do I need to advertise? They're just going to come to me. They're just going to come to me. I don't need to do any marketing, any advertising, any networking, anything like that. And that's been the major cultural shift that I've seen happening in the small firm architects in particular. Is that's been really exciting for it. You're just not taught about business in school as an architect. It's all about design.
Well, controversial as it might sound, or as this might sound, and I know that you're open to controversy and you've no problem dealing with it. And correct me if I sound like an ass, right? But is there a stigma with architects that they have a certain behavioral aspect or characteristic? Are they on the spectrum type of conversation?
Yeah. One of the things we say, I'll put it this way. When we go to differentiate ourselves from other architects, when owners or developers or builders are looking to hire us to do their project, the phrase I use over and over again as I go, we're not those pretentious architects from Boulder or Aspen. We don't have the thick rim glasses at F9 Productions. We are very down to earth people, and we are here to solve your problems. We're not here to just dictate and facilitate and administer a design you don't even want just to puff up our ego. We're here to solve your problems. So I think that's sort of the issue, is like, a lot of architects are just think it's my way or the highway. I'm the genius. And it's like, I don't know, a lot of these folks who end up hiring you, and then also even the subcontractors and blue collar folks, they have some good ideas. I mean, they should be heard too. This is designing and building a building is a giant team effort. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of people involved with many decisions. And yeah, we just try to cut that ego at the door and solve their problems. That's our focus.
So you reckon there's an egotistic characteristic with architects in the general term?
Oh, 100%. Everybody should read The Fountainhead by Anne Rind. That's like,
Where I was coming from on it, and like I'm open to being criticized on that. What I was coming on it was there's kind of like an introvert characteristic with architects, and I was trying to go down the route with you in terms of maybe that's what's holding them back as business people or entrepreneurs, that they're so stuck in the weeds of the detail of the architecture and the love of architecture that they don't actually look at the entrepreneurial aspect of scaling an architecture.
yeah, no, I think you're right about that too. Yeah, because multiple things can be true at once for sure. Yeah, it's you don't even. It's because I don't know why. Like, there's been a lot of, it's okay to make money. Like, it's okay to have profit, and it's okay to grow. The problem is there's such a marriage with really good architecture being also art. It's the same thing as like artists. That type of personality with an artist has a lot of trouble thinking that it's a business, because they don't want to taint the art. I think they don't want to. It maybe for them it suddenly feels dirty, and it's like, no, I don't know why we can't get to this. One of the big phrase that comes out all the time in architecture and design is like, form should follow function. They should be married together. So like, why can't that be the same thing with your business? If with your architecture practice, is like, your form is the art, but the function should be that you're facilitating people making a living, people being able to eat, people be able to survive a downturn. It's sort of a disconnect.
And that's where there's a disconnect between the guy on the ground and the architect.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons for sure.
I remember starting on the sites at a young age, and the architect was like seen as the top guy, the top woman, the top person, and they'd never get into conversation with the guys on the ground. Like never, ever, ever in any of my time working in the construction field would you see an architect having even just a bit of banter with
Hmm.
the guys on the ground. It was always very, formal and very professional with the client, walking around with the client, and you weren't even allowed to sort of, there was a kind of a imposed non-interaction between even the guys on the ground when the architect, oh, here's the architect, clean up the place, make sure the place is kind of nice and tidy for them, that type of stuff. Are you telling me that stuff is still going on?
Oh gosh. Yeah, big time, big time.
Oh,
Big time,
no.
yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it?
Well, there's not enough architects that are building. I think that's one of the biggest problems, which is why I'm such an evangelical about it is I'm like, look, like there's just a really ungratefulness, I think. And that's probably why my perspective is the way it is because I've been in the trenches for a lot of my life, when we put on the developer hat, for example, in 2018 and 2019, I had my tool bags on for 80 days in a row. Like I was out there with the guys. And one of the biggest lesson that I kind of got out of that was I got so much respect from the subcontractors who then a lot of them became some of my good friends actually. Like I know
Yeah,
their families very well. I give them free fish that I catch and stuff like this and they give me beef that they harvest on their properties and stuff because they were,
yeah,
good kind of good old boys. Man, they just as soon as they saw me out there with it, bleeding with them, sweating with them, it was a whole different game. Their loyalty just completely shifted. And now, like for example, my plumber and my HVAC sub, it's the same company. He's like, "You're my best builder." He's like, "I've been doing this." He's been same as me. He's been doing it for about 40 years, about 10 years longer than me. And he goes, "You are like my best builder." He goes, "You get it. You bring all the lessons from the field because him and the electricians, for example, the electricians on that big development we did. One day, the electrician they get a whole nother level of comfortability with you, which is great. And so the electrician gave us a critique on our drawings. He's looking at our drawings one day and he goes, "These are great drawings, Lance. I don't want to take like you guys are drawing. They're very good. They're so much better than most architects." He goes, "But like, are you open to a suggestion?" I go, "Absolutely." And he goes, "If you could take because what we used to do is we used to do lighting plans on top and then the outlet plans in one." And he goes, "If you could separate those for me and just do an outlet plan and then a lighting plan with a switching plan on the other one." He goes, That would just make our lives way easier and it'll just reduce the amount of questions we got to ask you." So I brought that back to the firm. And then now since then, since 2018, 2019, so that would be, 8 years ago. So many lessons like that I'm getting from my subcontractors that are out there actually doing the work where I go, "Hey guys," I'll go back to the architecture office. "Hey guys and gals, here's another lesson from the field. And this is how we're going to update our drawing standards because we're going to draw to the field." Like the fact that it's not drawn to the field more, just that simple thing. And thinking about those guys, how do you get, I don't know how many times I've been with my architects and I'm like, well, how do you think they're going to get their hand up there? How are they going to nail that in? This is not a good solution. Like you got to really think about making it easier for them. I'm like, if you make it easier for them, you're going to make it easier for you because you're going to have to answer less questions. It should just, be a layup.
yeah. Hi, guys. As you're enjoying this podcast, I just wanted to take a few seconds to let you know about my company, Coyle Group. We're not just another safety recruitment agency. We're your partners in building a safer future. With over 25 years of experience and more than 1 million hours of safety work completed, our mission is clear. Provide top-tier health and safety contractors tailored to the unique needs of your project. We also carry out on-site construction audits. From wind energy to power stations, utilities and engineering projects, our global reach and specialised expertise ensures your operations are not just compliant, but exemplary. For more information on how ensuring safety and sustainability of your products using our team of HSE contractors, visit coyle-group.com or click on the show notes or video description now. I've also put a booking link into the description for you to click and have a one-to-one conversation with me. Now, back to the podcast. Enjoy and see you soon. Look, my background is health and safety, and I have a bit of a bugbear in that industry in the sense that I don't feel, well, there's a general feeling as well that the safety guys are just not getting out into the field enough and that they're buried with paperwork and administration type duties. And then you're not having the conversations out in the field, the genuine, meaningful conversations, that key decisions like risk assessment and stuff like that. And that's pretty much what you're saying there is like, how are you going to maintain that glass? How are you going to get up to that glass? How are you going to replace that glass? Who's going to replace that lighting? How are they going to replace that lighting? Why haven't you thought about, a different design at design stage? Like I know that there's a lot of work, especially in Europe, gone into the design safety and making buildings more practical in terms of the user being more user friendly. But I think there still is that kind of, well, I wanted to look at that way because wow, look at it when you see it in that form. Wow, and it's back to your earlier statement about form. I would like to get to another point, which is after COVID, I kind of felt that the architects lost a bit of control in terms of the client architect relationship. And I think I kind of seen it probably shift, and I could be wrong, of where the architect's sort of dominant position got diminished a little bit, and the clients started sort of going directly to the developer builder themselves and kind of using the architect only to produce drawings or to have an input, but they weren't as hands on. Would that be the same sense you got on your side of the water?
Yes, and now they're doubling down with AI. That's right. So it's like, look, the white collar professions are under attack by artificial intelligence. There's no way around it. There's even if it's just the low hanging fruit first, where it is like administrative paperwork kind of tasks. Like for example, putting together an RFP as an architect for a project. If you have templates set up and you are properly training whatever Gemini, Claude, whatever one you're using, the amount of time it can cut down on you putting together a really good proposal, gosh, is like magnitudes. I mean, you're taking out days now, and we've used it quite a bit and won a lot of proposals with it. So it's like, okay, you know, I know for a lot of developers over here and owners just look at architects like this is a necessary evil. Why? Because like I can't get a building permit unless I hire an architect who stamps the drawings. There's a lot of that. Hey, can you just stamp this? Hey, can you just stamp this? So it's 100%. It's not only the COVID reaction, what happened during COVID, but then it's also then the AI part of it, which is then like, all right, architects, again, are you really like, it's so crazy to me that they're talking out of both sides of their mouths, especially on LinkedIn. I see this a lot where like architects are like, yay, it's going to make us faster, better, stronger. We have to hire less people. And then at the same time, then the next post from the same guy or gal will be, they're so worried about the profession
Yeah.
losing even more of it. And I go, well, then what, as a part of your profession, can you start doing to re-expand and have more job security? And the obvious answer is building. Their AI will not be replacing men in the trenches anytime soon, risking their lives and placing concrete. Like this if you really want to prove yourself as valuable, because this is the other thing that like I'm saying it from a architect's perspective with a bunch of colleagues who agree that like they're like, well, how come the builders? It seems like the builders have a higher, the owners care about their opinions more and they're getting paid more and all these things. And it's like, well, because they're the ones actually making it happen. Like your lines on paper are just lines on paper until it hits a line on the dirt, and you start chalking it out for a foundation. It's just been real obvious to me where we're at in society right now with this profession that like this is the logical leap for you to take and start taking back that. And then you're just going to be a better architect. And then maybe you'll have more friends too, because then the blue collar guys are going to like you, if you play ball.
Well, a funny like we would be advocates of an AI feature called, or an AI solution called Live Switch. I'll get Mary, our producer, to send you a link to it. Amazing, just blown away. We had the guy on the podcast, James Hatfield,
Hmm.
and like that too. You just send a link to whoever's on the job, so you don't need to have a load of people heading for the job to look at it or whatever else. The customer or whatever can open up the link and then just push shown the phone around the area. AI just picks up, I don't know how it does it, but it's even able to go and understand the square footage. It's able to see color. and without being told this is a brown wall, I want to change it to a pink wall. The AI actually just understands what color scheme is in the room or whatever it is. And within 5 or 10 minutes, you'll have a contract, you'll have a quotation, you'll have a risk assessment, and all the documentation you need all sent to the customer just through that small little piece. And what I got out of it was people that maybe not fully passionate about their trade, or maybe sort of losing a bit of their way, or maybe not as geeky as some of the other guys, will become better. It'll make these people better. It'll make mediocre better. But you still need that sort of juice, if you like, the 20% of, oh my God, the creative side and your side of things is what I see is like stuff that AI would not be able to probably produce, that is unique to you as a practice. Maybe you have your own nuances. There'll always be that 20%. And it's those that have that 20% sort of golden key. They're the people that I see probably are going to be the ones that are going to be the superstars for the next generation of tradespeople, architects, whatever you.
Yeah, it's always a lot of first-time business owners, entrepreneurs when they're starting up. I understand their adversity towards the idea of niching down and trying to find a niche and then exploiting that niche. But that really is important actually, because I get the how they're maybe worried about it, where they're like, oh my gosh, aren't I going to restrict myself with the type of work I will do? So like, what if there isn't that type of work to do? That is a question you need to ask yourself for sure. And it is better if you have a diversity of clients, different kinds of types and stuff like that. But you also have to differentiate yourself from the crowd. And that's the way I think about that last 20% is like, what is that golden magic you have that convinces a client like, oh, that's why I'm going with this person.
Yeah, and that could be just personality.
Hmm.
It could be that you're a good person, that you're honest, that you're communicating well, that you've got this sort of, aura about you, that you're not egotistic, that you don't have, your own self interest or narcissism. I'm not saying architects are narcissists. Find them anywhere. Don't start me, Lance. But yeah, I'm starting to warm to your idea that, like, maybe the architectural industry could be at risk here if they don't wake up.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if I had to pick on the engineers a little bit, I would say the engineers are probably first in the chopping block because, like, yes, there's creativity that comes with their jobs. I don't deny that, especially on the structural engineering side. Like, some of my structural engineers are just like magic. They're magic people. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. Like, how did you get that to work? Thank you so much. Not only did you make it easy for the field, you made it easy for the architects, and then it looks cool and all the good stuff. But let's say like mechanical engineers or electrical engineers, but I'll pick on them, or plumbing engineers. I bet there is something in the works right now to where it's real close to unloading, is where you could feed it a set of drawings or a CAD model and it recognizes all of the plumbing fixtures that an architect has put in, toilets, sinks, all the good stuff. And it can come up with some diagrams that are pretty dang close, that are
Yeah.
almost ready to stamp, and all the calculations are done. Because there's a lot more calculations on that side. So I'm with you. It's like, I think there has to be some waking up here and really recognizing where the bleeding edge is, and then finding out how you can fit it in the cutting edge of where the professions are headed.
So let me flip that conversation. Do you think there's an opportunity as an entrepreneur to go out and start acquiring these small architectural practices before they actually start going into the bin?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I get like one or two a week in my email box ready to sell. You thought about selling your practice? It's kind of tempting, but I'm like, I don't know. I really like what I do. Yeah, there's a lot of that happening. And you know what? This is a tangential story. In the United States, the veterinarian profession, that's what's been happening there. There's three giant corporations that have went around the United States and started buying up all of the little mom and pop shops. And then now it's why it's costing so much money to actually do any vet things to your animals. And you see this over and over again. It's just like the way capitalism and and entrepreneurism works is it is based on a hierarchy because it's competitive. So if you're going to have a competitive environment, there's going to be a hierarchy, and eventually there will be a consolidation. So yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
It's an
It's
opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I can see it because otherwise, what's the value? So maybe this conversation should be about why architects need to get out of the business before they're pushed out of the business.
Yeah. Exactly. I just think there's also been like architects are very progressive politically, usually. I'm not. I'm the opposite. And like I'm progressive in some ways and conservative in other ways. I'm kind of I feel hopeful anyway, like a better mix. And maybe it's because of the blue collar, white collar thing and wearing both hats. But one of the things a lot of progressive architects like to say all the time is like diversity is our strength. And it's like, okay, apply that to your business though. Like, shouldn't you be applying that to your business? Because like if you put all your eggs in one basket and the eggs go away, then your business fails. Which is again not like sort of contradictory on the niching part of it. But it's like, that's what I'm getting at is like you probably need to niche in like maybe three different ways. Concentrate on maybe three different typologies and then become the expert in those, and that separates you from the people that are generalists.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like years ago, you would have never heard of an architectural firm going out of business, but you do actually hear
A
today.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. Still, even today, on your side of things, architects are going out of business, are they?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see people go belly up all the time. It's sort of like quietly you hear about it. You're like, oh, they don't exist anymore. They got bought up by this or that or the other, or they just went out of business. I have several friends who tried to start up companies that I graduated with, and then they went under pretty quickly. And it's tough. But this is why it's like we would have had our first layoff in 17 years last year if we weren't also building our what we designed. Because what I did is once the architecture was very rough last year. The commissions were low. There wasn't a lot of them. And so when the going got tough for us is I pulled a project architect or two out into the field. They actually went and did field work because I controlled the labor, right? To fill the gap until we could get a few commissions and bring them back to the office. And then I also had them do a lot more construction administration. Go out, meet with the guys, talk about details, figure things out, and then F9 would bill our construction company F14 Productions. And at the end of the year, when we got to our final look at the books, our biggest client was our sister company, our building company. And the amount of money that if we wouldn't have been able to have that income stream, I put up a graph for all the staff and I didn't say it like explicitly, but they understood what I was getting at is we wouldn't have been profitable at all. We would have been negative on the architecture side if we wouldn't have had that stream. And that number equaled a salary. And that's the way I said it. And everybody got it. And now they're just all on board with like, oh yeah, I'll go out in the field more. Like this is great, because they have people that are like that they know are graduating, can't find jobs. It's still very tough out there. And I think it's just going to get tougher.
Hello, gaffers. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. We love every one of the guests that we have, but in order to bring on more great guests, we'd love to build the channel with you. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's create a really great community where we bring in better and better guests for you to deliver great content and great pieces of information that you can take back into your business. Now, back to the podcast. Thank you.
Talk to me then, Lance, seeing as you're the expert in the field. What is the financial model of an architectural practice for people that wouldn't be au fait with a construction architectural firm? How do they make money? What is the margins? What does that model look like generally?
Yeah, generally, most architects are aiming for 10% profitability, and it's the way it's based. The way they get to fees happens in two different ways typically. So some architects will just purely bill hourly. So it goes all the way back to our go for 725 an hour conversation. And let's say the cost to employ like a designer is let's say it costs to employ them uh, $50 an hour. So you got to pay them, let's say you're paying them $20, $30 an hour. Then there's the insurance and all the other stuff. But the cost for every hour you employ that person is $50 an hour. Then there's a standard multiplier, just like there is in the construction example of like two to three times. So you're going to bill the client, $100 to $150 an hour for that employee, and then you're just working pure hourly, and maybe every contract is done hourly. The problem with that is after a while, your clients just feel like they're getting nickel and dimed because it's like the clock is just open. You're kind of like a lawyer in that way. Yeah, yeah. And so we don't operate that way. We do fixed fee contracts. So the other half of the architects do fixed fee contracts that are basically based on a percentage of what the projected construction total cost will be, which is usually 5 to 10%. So architects are usually aiming for, like, if they can get a really good commission for them would be, let's say the house that they're going to design is going to end up costing in the construction phase $1 million. If they can get a contract for $100,000, that's a good fee. And that's typically the business model that people are operating on. But that's not like, to contrast that, general contractors in the Colorado where we operate, what they're charging owners typically is 20 to 25% of the total projected total construction cost. So this is where the American disconnect anyway, or like the complaint comes from for the architects. I don't blame them. I'm with
Yeah.
them. I'm like, well, yeah, look, the builder's
Shocking.
making more money than you. Look at that. And they couldn't build it without your drawings. I agree with you. So why aren't you building them too? Like, just take on a few of them. Take on one building project per year. That's all you need. Like, why not do it?
Yeah. And obviously, you're talking gross here when you say 10%. So I'm trying to figure out, why would they go bust? I'm sitting there 20, 25%. Okay, it's not across the board, but if we take the 10%, why the hell are architects going out of business then?
Yeah, because they're not beginning with the end goal in mind when they start doing their drawings. They just get caught in the art of it. And it's like, what is the least amount of drawings I can do to successfully obtain a permit for a building owner? And at the same time, what is the least amount of drawings I can do to make it very explicit and obvious to the field who's looking at the drawings on how to construct the building? There's been many times that I've done a peer review on other architects. There's been some from like California, for example, where I look at the drawings from the other architect, because an owner will come to us maybe and they're not happy with this other architect. And they're like, here's what they gave me. And I just keep looking through these drawings and I go, my God, half of these drawings are completely useless. There was no point in even doing the drawings. So they're just kind of hanging themselves. That's why. They're spending too much time when they don't need to without having an end goal in mind.
And probably bad business acumen on top of it, that they're just not on top of the business.
Yeah. They're too much in the business and not having that purview like you should have as a CEO.
Yeah, the helicopter view, as they say.
Yep. Nail it.
Tell me this, is it that big a problem? It sounds like from this conversation, and I really enjoyed the podcast with you, by the way, is, not connecting themselves with the blue collar worker on the ground. That's kind of what I'm getting a sense of from talking to you, is that it's all part of the same ecosystem, that if you have this sort of builder, planner, developer mentality all rolled into one practice, that will solve this disconnect that you're talking about between the architects and the guys.
Yeah, it is. Because who suffers at the end? It's the owner and the client, where they're like, because you can't expect the guys in the field to carry this really cool architectural story through construction. That's not their fault. That's actually not their fault. Like, they're not the ones that were in the design meetings to get it done. And so for us, like, for example, we're going to do a very extensive addition and remodel in the mountains starting in about a month on a house. When we were mid-design, the owners came out from a different state because this is their vacation home. And guess who I had walk the site with us? I had the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing subcontractors walk the site with me and the owners and my interior designer and my project architect, so that everybody understood the story we're trying to tell with the design and the architecture, and then also the functionality of the project, right? So, like, what should we do in this sunroom that is disconnected from the house where we can't get a duct over? We should probably do a mini split. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And we should, but like, I suppose people maybe listening or watching the show are probably thinking to themselves, well, I know nothing about building that as regards, leave that to the experts. But you can very well join and do a joint venture with it. Don't tell me you haven't come across a top builder guy that probably isn't on top of his game in terms of running a business, but is on top of his game in terms of operating the business. And that maybe there could be a synergy there, that the architect and the builder go hand in glove together in terms of winning projects, pricing projects, and sharing in the success. While you're talking, and while this is coming out of my head, it kind of links me back to the fact that in construction, there still is a lot of independent, one lane thinking, and not enough joined up collaboration amongst the different disciplines.
Yeah, you're bringing up a very good point. yeah, if people are apprehensive about this, I don't know how to build. I don't know how to pick up a hammer. That's okay. What I tell people all the time is I'm like, do what you just said. Why can't you team up with somebody? You could pay somebody to mentor you and help you through the processes. You could even go to take our course, architectsguide2.com, where we're trying to help people take that leap. I mean, we just spoon feed it to you if you go take that course if you're an architect. Or, well, one thing we've advocated for is we're like, start with your own house. Like, just try to do a bathroom remodel yourself so you understand the sequence of construction. Or if you're ever going to design and then you want to build your own house, no better way than to just try to make all the mistakes happen on your own property, right? That's kind of the idea. I think everybody can take that leap. It's just a matter of will.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I got to throw a few curveballs at you because that's what we like to do. And we're coming near the end of the show, Lance. So, knowing what you know now, what would you do different in life?
Yeah, that's my question. That's my question I ask everybody. I wouldn't do anything different. I wouldn't do anything different because, like, even with the development, I have a very good developer buddy, and he said that he developed a 10-story building and this is his phrase where he goes, when I had no business doing so. And he's like, but how else do you ever get to that point unless you try it? So, what I tell people is it's not so much me what I would do different. It's like what I try to challenge everybody to do is I go like, you should be laying on your deathbed with no regrets. So I'm just determined to not try to have any regrets in my professional and personal life by trying everything. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Failure's okay.
Yeah, it sounds very much, well, I got the feeling from you that you're very fulfilled as an individual anyway. So it's probably not an issue for you. That's why you're probably asking that question of others because you've answered it yourself.
Thanks for throwing it at me, though. I appreciate it.
A favorite book or movie or both?
Marcus Aurelius's Meditations completely changed my life. I learned what modern stoicism is. It helped me understand myself and what I can control and what I can't control. And I think every person in this very chaotic world where we have this illusion of control, like with politics, it's an illusion. It's like, what can you actually control? And that book will really help you understand what you should be focusing on.
And down here, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Something about you, a point of interest about you that the listeners probably wouldn't resonate with or go, I didn't see that coming. Is there something about you that's a sort of a quirky point of interest? Maybe obviously your own personal family would know, but maybe not everybody knows. Maybe not everybody in the office. Maybe you don't want to tell everybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking, thank you for like just talking so I could think about it. It's pretty controversial. I hope you guys are ready. I am a dog liker, but I am not a dog lover. Most people like to say, oh, I love dogs. I just like them. They're okay.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm in your camp. I'm definitely in that camp of I like them, but I don't want to live with them.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I thought you were going to bring up your YouTube channel if you want to share the details of your YouTube channel for camping and fishing.
Oh, yeah. Go to check out Fishing with Lance on YouTube. We do really cool stuff on there. We're hiking, fishing, camping, all the outdoor stuff. That is at the end of the week. I am so tired of answering questions and repeating myself that I don't want to talk to anybody on the weekends. So I do these insane, deep hikes into the alpines of Colorado, Rocky Mountains, and where I don't have any cell service, and that's my release. So I try to film and share those adventures with the world.
Yeah, for anybody listening in or watching, I had a look at it. 126,000 followers, Lance. Like it's not a small YouTube channel.
Yeah, I know. We're
pretty decent.
We get the tricky part is like I talked about, like not being people-less on the weekends like that with the channel, and then all of a sudden now, because there's so many viewers, I do get recognized. So it's kind of I'm like, yeah, hi, that's me, and then I just keep walking.
An absolute pleasure having you. How do people contact you? We'll put stuff into the show notes so people can reach out to you. Why would they reach out to you? Talk to us about the connection between you and people that might be curious about Lance.
Yeah, one of the best places to follow me and connect with me is on LinkedIn. If you go to linkedin.com and you type in LANCE, last name Cayko, Cayko, I will link in with you. You can catch up with me every single week, 2 times a week on InsideTheFirmPodcast.com. And then if you go to our website, f9productions.com, you can sign up for our newsletter and follow along to all of our cool, fun, crazy, and adventures in the building industry.
Lance, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on the podcast. I'm sure we probably lost a few architects along the way, but hey, we're here. We'll be here next week.
They'll come back.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you again, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
No problem. It was brilliant. Thank you very much, Lance.